December 1944. Belgium's Ardennes forests concealed the largest German armored offensive since 1940. 3 panzer divisions rolled toward American lines, until they didn't. Intelligence officers in Washington noticed something impossible. Entire tank columns seizing simultaneously, engines destroyed from within. The culprit wasn't explosives or military-grade sabotage. It was sugar, common household sugar, deployed by a woman whose name would remain classified for 60 years. December 16, 1944, 05:30 hours, Bastogne, Belgium. Temperature, 18 degrees. Staff Sergeant James Mitchell of the 101st Airborne Division could hear them before dawn, the mechanical growl of German armor moving through frozen forests. The sound that haunted every American soldier's nightmares. The situation was existential. 3 panzer divisions, over 400 tanks, were punching through American defensive lines in the largest German offensive since France fell. The Wehrmacht had achieved complete tactical surprise. American forces were outnumbered, outgunned, and nearly encircled. Standard defensive tactics were failing catastrophically. Intelligence reports arriving at Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force painted a picture of systematic slaughter. The 106th Infantry Division, surrounded and destroyed within 48 hours. The 28th Infantry Division, shattered defending river crossings. Casualty rates exceeded anything seen since Omaha Beach. Every engagement followed the same devastating pattern. German armor would concentrate overwhelming force. American positions would collapse. Survivors would retreat through snow, leaving frozen bodies behind. The numbers were brutal and precise. In the first 72 hours, 8,000 American soldiers captured, 3,000 killed, defensive line penetrated 60 miles deep. Tank kill ratios favored the Germans 5-1. American bazookas bounced off frontal armor of Panthers and Tigers. Artillery couldn't penetrate winter cloud cover to provide effective fire support. Every conventional solution had been tried. Every conventional solution had failed. In a cramped office beneath the Pentagon, Eleanor Hartwell studied reconnaissance photographs through cigarette smoke. Age, 34. Massachusetts Institute of Technology graduate. Former chemistry professor from Boston, recruited by the Office of Strategic Services in 1942 when her brother died at Guadalcanal. She wore practical wool suits, drank coffee perpetually, spoke 3 languages fluently, and had spent 2 years developing sabotage techniques that defied military convention. Her specialty wasn't explosives or assassination, it was industrial chemistry applied to warfare. She understood something fundamental that career military officers often missed. Modern war wasn't won exclusively through firepower, but through logistical vulnerability. Tanks weren't just weapons, they were complex machines requiring fuel, maintenance, and specific operational conditions. Disrupt the machine, render the weapon impotent. For 6 months, Eleanor had been proposing an operation the Pentagon brass considered absurd. Her plan: infiltrate civilian saboteurs behind German lines armed not with plastic explosives, but with common household materials. Her weapon of choice: refined white sugar. Her target: fuel systems of German armor. The chemistry was elegant and devastating. Gasoline engines tolerate water contamination poorly, but can operate despite it. Sugar contamination is different. When sugar dissolves in gasoline and passes through carburetors, heat caramelizes it into sticky residue that coats fuel injectors, clogs filters, and seizes pistons. The damage is catastrophic and irreversible. Better still, it's delayed. Tanks operate normally for hours before symptoms appear, making source identification impossible. The military establishment had rejected her proposal repeatedly. Generals trained at West Point saw sugar sabotage as unreliable, unquantifiable, insufficiently aggressive. Colonels who'd earned their ranks commanding artillery battalions couldn't accept that household materials could achieve what 1,000-pound bombs could not. The logistics officer who reviewed her proposal actually laughed. "Ma'am, we're fighting panzers, not baking cakes." But December 16th changed everything. When reports arrived describing the Ardennes offensive's scale, when casualty lists began filling pages, when commanders realized American forces faced potential encirclement and destruction, suddenly Eleanor's absurd proposal didn't seem absurd anymore. December 18th, 16 hours, Supreme Headquarters Conference Room. General Omar Bradley listened to Eleanor's briefing with the exhausted attention of a man watching his army disintegrate. Maps showed German penetration deepening. Casualty reports arrived every 20 minutes. Bastogne was surrounded. The situation approached catastrophic. Eleanor's pitch was direct. "We cannot stop their tanks with what we have. We don't have enough armor, enough air support, enough time, but we can stop them with chemistry. Give me authorization, give me 48 hours, and I can render entire panzer columns inoperable without firing a shot." Bradley's chief of staff interrupted. "With sugar, you're asking us to bet American lives on household ingredients." Eleanor's response carried the edge of someone who'd buried a brother. "I'm asking you to trust applied chemistry over institutional arrogance. Their tanks need fuel. We control what goes in that fuel. Sugar converts gasoline into engine poison. The Germans won't understand what's happening until it's too late, because they'll never imagine we'd weaponize something so mundane." The room fell silent, except for distant artillery. Bradley studied reconnaissance photographs showing panzer columns advancing. He looked at casualty projections. He looked at Eleanor, MIT professor turned OSS operative, standing calmly while proposing to sabotage Hitler's war machine with baking supplies. His decision was pragmatic American logic. If conventional weapons aren't working, try unconventional weapons. You have authorization. You have 72 hours. If this fails, we're no worse off than we already are. If it works, maybe we survive. Eleanor nodded once, already mentally organizing logistics. She would need couriers, civilian collaborators behind enemy lines, precise intelligence on German fuel depot locations, and approximately 500 pounds of refined white sugar distributed across Belgian resistance networks within 48 hours. The operation had a code name now, Operation Sweet Poison. Its architect was a woman the Pentagon would never publicly acknowledge. Its weapon was available in every American kitchen. Its target was the most feared armored force in military history. The battle to save Bastogne, and perhaps the entire Western Front, would be won not through heroic charges or devastating firepower, but through chemistry, audacity, and one woman's absolute refusal to accept that conventional wisdom was the only path to victory. December 19th, 1944, 03 hours. Eleanor's operational headquarters occupied a former brewery basement in Luxembourg City, 23 miles behind fluid front lines. The air smelled of damp stone, burnt coffee, and the metallic tang of radio equipment operating continuously. Temperature inside, 45 degrees Celsius. Outside, German armor advancing closer every hour. The challenge wasn't theoretical chemistry, it was operational reality under combat conditions. Eleanor needed to distribute 500 pounds of refined sugar across a 60-mile front, infiltrate it into German fuel supplies, and coordinate timing so maximum damage occurred when panzers were furthest from repair facilities. She had to accomplish this while the entire region was an active combat zone. Communications were disrupted, and German counterintelligence was executing suspected saboteurs publicly. Her team assembled from unlikely sources. Former pharmaceutical salesmen who knew Belgian roads, seminary students fluent in German, farm wives whose husbands were dead or fighting, who moved through German checkpoints without suspicion because Wehrmacht soldiers saw women as non-threatening. A high school chemistry teacher from Chicago who'd volunteered for OSS duty after his son died at Anzio. None were soldiers. All were willing to die for a chance to hurt the bastards who'd invaded their countries or killed their children. The first obstacle was procurement. 500 pounds of refined white sugar didn't exist in combat zone Belgium. Civilians barely had bread. Eleanor requisitioned it from U.S. Army quartermaster supplies, earmarked for field kitchens. When the supply officer questioned why intelligence operations needed baking ingredients, Eleanor's response was coldly pragmatic. Would you rather feed soldiers who'll be dead in 3 days, or kill German tanks that are murdering them? The sugar arrived in 50 10-pound cotton sacks, normally used for field rations. Eleanor's team repackaged it into hundreds of small cloth pouches, each containing exactly 1 pound, small enough to conceal under winter coats, sized precisely to contaminate a 200-gallon fuel truck. The packaging operation consumed 18 hours of round-the-clock work. Personnel operated in shifts, hands cramping from tying pouches, breathing sugar dust that coated everything. Operational security was maintained through compartmentalization. Individual couriers knew only their specific target, a fuel depot location, a recognition signal, an extraction point. They didn't know other couriers' identities, didn't know the overall operation scope, couldn't compromise the mission even under interrogation. Eleanor briefed each personally, speaking French or Flemish or German, depending on their cover identity. Her instructions were specific and unambiguous. Approach fuel storage at night. German guards smoke frequently. Wait until they're distracted. 1 pound of sugar per fuel truck. Pour it directly into tanks when guards rotate positions. Don't rush, don't panic. The sugar dissolves invisibly. Even if Germans inspect fuel afterward, they won't detect contamination until engines are destroyed. You'll have vanished before they understand what happened. The risks were calculated but severe. German military police executed saboteurs immediately, often publicly. Wehrmacht orders authorized shooting civilians, found tampering with military equipment. Belgian collaborators reported suspicious activity for cash bounties. One mistake, one courier caught, one guard alerting others, one suspicious German investigating, could unravel everything. December 20th, 02 hours. First operational deployment. Marie-Claire Dubois, age 47, widowed farm wife from Liège, whose husband was executed by Wehrmacht in 1940. She carried 6 1-pound sugar pouches sewn into her coat lining, wore wooden clogs, pushed a handcart containing turnips and potatoes. Her target, German fuel depot outside Houffalize, servicing panzer columns, refueling before the final push toward Liège. She approached at pre-dawn when guards were cold, tired, distracted. Her cover story was simple. Farmer bringing vegetables to sell to German mess units, permitted by occupation authorities because Wehrmacht needed local food supplies. Guards barely glanced at her papers. Why would they? She was middle-aged, poor, clearly not military threat. The fuel depot occupied a commandeered farm, fuel trucks parked in rows, engines cold, awaiting morning distribution to frontline units. Marie-Claire positioned her cart between trucks and depot building, creating visual obstruction. When guards moved to opposite side for cigarette break, smoking near fuel was forbidden but universally practiced anyway, she worked methodically. One fuel cap opened, 1 pound sugar poured directly into tank, cap replaced, moved to next truck, 15 minutes, 6 trucks contaminated, guards never noticed. She departed before dawn, pushing empty cart, heart hammering but face impassive. By nightfall, those 6 fuel trucks would distribute contaminated gasoline to tanks preparing for assault. By the following morning, panzer engines across entire sectors would begin experiencing mysterious failures. The operation multiplied across the front. 12 couriers deployed first night, then 20, then 40, each targeting different fuel depots, different supply trucks, different logistics nodes. Eleanor coordinated from her brewery basement, tracking reports radioed in coded phrases. Harvest successful meant contamination completed. Weather unfavorable meant target aborted. Crop failure meant courier captured or killed. Casualty rate was 15%. 6 couriers didn't return from first wave operations. Eleanor marked them on her maps with small black crosses, memorized their names, and sent replacement couriers to their targets the following night. Moral was pragmatic rather than callous. Every courier knew the risks, volunteered anyway, and understood their deaths meant something tangible. German tanks immobilized, American soldiers surviving. The strain was brutal. Eleanor operated on 4 hours sleep every 2 days. Chain-smoked cigarettes, consumed coffee perpetually, coordinated operations while artillery rumbled closer. Her hands trembled from exhaustion and caffeine. Her team worked until physical collapse, then worked more. The operation proceeded through Christmas. No celebrations, no pause, because German panzers didn't pause, and American soldiers were dying in snow. December 23rd, 18 hours. First confirmation arrived. Reconnaissance aircraft reported entire German tank column, estimated 40 vehicles, stationary on road between Bastogne and Houffalize. Not destroyed by airstrikes, not engaged by American armor, simply stopped, engines seized, vehicles abandoned, crews bewildered. Follow-up intelligence reported similar phenomena across multiple sectors. The sabotage was working. Sugar infiltrated days earlier was destroying engines now, precisely when panzers were furthest from repair facilities, exactly when German offensive momentum was critical. Wehrmacht mechanics disassembled engines, found caramelized residue coating components, couldn't explain source. Fuel samples tested clean because sugar was already consumed destroying engines. Eleanor allowed herself 10 minutes of satisfaction. Then she sent 40 more couriers into the night, each carrying more sugar, each targeting more fuel depots. The operation expanded because success demanded expansion. Every immobilized panzer was one less gun aimed at American soldiers. Every destroyed engine was one less ton of armor Eisenhower's forces needed to counter. By December 26, Operation Sweet Poison had deployed 127 couriers, contaminated approximately 400 German fuel trucks, and caused estimated 200-plus Panzer engine failures across the Ardennes front. The cost: 19 couriers dead or captured, Eleanor's health deteriorating from stress, and 500 pounds of US Army sugar deployed as chemical warfare. The sugar sabotage hadn't stopped the Battle of the Bulge alone. American soldiers still fought and died holding positions. But it had robbed the Wehrmacht of their critical advantage. Mechanized mobility, immobilized tanks became steel coffins. Panzer divisions designed for rapid exploitation warfare were instead fighting positional battles they couldn't win. Eleanor's operation had achieved something extraordinary through audacity and chemistry, weaponizing the mundane, proving innovation matters more than orthodoxy, demonstrating that one determined woman with applied intelligence could accomplish what entire conventional military operations could not. December 27, 1944, 080 hours. Wehrmacht High Command Headquarters, Ziegenberg Castle, Germany. General Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt reviewed operational reports with mounting confusion that bordered on rage. The Ardennes Offensive, Germany's final strategic gamble, personally approved by Hitler, consuming the last reserves of armor and fuel, was collapsing not through American military superiority, but through inexplicable mechanical catastrophe. The pattern defied rational explanation. Entire panzer battalions reported identical symptoms: engines running smoothly, then suddenly developing rough idle, then catastrophic seizure within hours. Mechanics disassembled engines, discovered pistons welded to cylinders by caramelized substance, found fuel filters clogged with sticky residue, identified fuel injectors destroyed by crystallized contamination. Chemical analysis revealed the impossible: refined sugar. Von Rundstedt's intelligence chief, Oberst Klaus Steiner, presented findings with barely concealed disbelief. Herr General Feldmarschall, we've confirmed sugar contamination in fuel supplies across 17 depot locations spanning 80 kilometers. The sabotage is coordinated, systematic, and strategically targeted to cause maximum operational disruption. Our fuel security protocols should have prevented this. They didn't. Von Rundstedt's response reflected doctrinal arrogance colliding with battlefield reality. Sugar, you're telling me the Americans are defeating our panzers with household ingredients? This is preposterous. Our fuel depots have armed guards, security protocols, inspection procedures. How could Belgian peasants infiltrate military installations repeatedly without detection? Steiner's answer cut to operational truth. Because we designed security against military threats, commandos, explosives, armed saboteurs. We never imagined civilians carrying cooking supplies. Our guards inspect for weapons and military equipment. They don't search farm women selling vegetables for sugar hidden in coat linings. The Americans, or whoever is coordinating this, understood our blind spot and exploited it brilliantly. The strategic implications were devastating. Germany's Ardennes offensive required rapid mechanized advance, penetrate American lines, capture fuel depots, reach Antwerp within days. The entire operational concept depended on panzer mobility. Without functioning tanks, the offensive became positional warfare Germany couldn't win. American reinforcements arriving daily. German fuel reserves exhausted. Winter weather grounding Luftwaffe support. Wehrmacht commanders across the front reported identical confusion. Hauptmann Friedrich Weber, commanding officer of Panzer Battalion 501, filed report describing situation. 17 of my 42 tanks are immobilized by fuel system failures. Remaining vehicles experiencing intermittent engine problems. Mechanics cannot repair damage. Contamination has destroyed engine components beyond field maintenance capability. We require complete engine replacements. Those aren't available. My battalion is combat ineffective due to sabotage we cannot counter because we cannot identify saboteurs before contamination occurs. The psychological impact rippled through German command structure. Officers trained in blitzkrieg doctrine, who'd conquered Poland and France through mechanized superiority, now faced enemy who'd neutralized their fundamental advantage using elementary chemistry. The humiliation was compounded by Wehrmacht's inability to develop effective countermeasures. How do you prevent sugar contamination when fuel supply chain involves hundreds of depot locations, thousands of trucks, tens of thousands of potential infiltration points? German counterintelligence attempted systematic response. Security increased at fuel depots, more guards, more frequent inspections, stricter access controls. Military police interrogated Belgian civilians aggressively, executing suspected saboteurs publicly as deterrents. Wehrmacht intelligence officers analyzed sabotage patterns, searching for coordinated networks they could dismantle. But Eleanor's operational design anticipated countermeasures. Couriers operated independently without knowledge of other operatives. Sabotage occurred sporadically across wide geographic areas, creating impression of spontaneous civilian resistance rather than coordinated military operation. Sugar contamination left no immediate forensic evidence. Fuel appeared clean until engines operated long enough for caramelization to occur. December 29, 1944. General Oberst Heinz Guderian, Inspector General of Armored Troops, visited frontline units to assess situation personally. What he found confirmed worst fears. Panzer divisions at 40% operational capacity, mechanics cannibalizing damaged tanks for spare parts, fuel trucks requiring armed escorts and inspection protocols that slowed distribution to crawl. Guderian's evaluation was brutally honest, in ways Nazi hierarchy rarely tolerated. The Americans have defeated our technical superiority through asymmetric innovation. They understood our vulnerability, complex machines requiring specific fuel chemistry, and exploited it using methods our security apparatus wasn't designed to counter. This isn't military genius. It's practical intelligence applied systematically. We trained our officers to win through firepower and doctrine. They trained theirs to win through improvisation and creativity. In this instance, their approach proved superior. The report circulated through Wehrmacht command structure, causing institutional soul-searching. German military culture valued hierarchical discipline, doctrinal orthodoxy, technical sophistication. The sugar sabotage contradicted every assumption. Simple defeated complex, improvisation defeated doctrine, civilian resistance defeated military occupation. Simultaneously, German intelligence attempted identifying sabotage coordinators. Interrogations of captured Belgian civilians revealed nothing. Most genuine saboteurs knew only their immediate mission, protecting operational security even under torture. Gestapo investigations pursued phantom networks that didn't exist in form they imagined. Wehrmacht never identified Eleanor Hartwell, never discovered OSS involvement, never understood the operation's American origins. The confusion peaked December 31st. Von Rundstedt formally reported to Hitler that Ardennes offensive had failed, citing multiple factors including weather, American resistance, logistical problems, and systematic fuel sabotage of undetermined origin, causing catastrophic armor losses. Hitler's response was characteristic: blame commanders for insufficient security, demand impossible counterattacks, refuse acknowledging that tactical innovation by inferior enemy had defeated German operational excellence. But reality was inescapable. By January 1945, Wehrmacht had lost operational initiative permanently. Panzer divisions withdrew from Ardennes, abandoning immobilized tanks, retreating toward German borders. American forces transitioned from desperate defense to confident offensive. The battle that was supposed to split Allied armies and force negotiated peace instead consumed Germany's last strategic reserves for no gain. German military analysts would spend decades studying how the Ardennes offensive collapsed. They'd cite weather, logistics, American numerical superiority, all valid factors. But buried in classified reports, accessible only after war's end, was truth many found unbearable. Elementary chemistry deployed by civilian saboteurs achieved what massed artillery and tactical air power alone couldn't: paralysis of mechanized warfare. Von Rundstedt never learned the sabotage architect was a woman, a chemistry professor from Massachusetts, operating from Belgian basement with sugar and determination. The knowledge would have been incomprehensible to military culture that saw women as decorative non-combatants. That blind spot, like the blind spot regarding sugar as weapon, was itself vulnerability Eleanor had exploited mercilessly. January 25, 1945, 14 nose hours, Luxembourg City. Eleanor Hartwell sat in liberated office reviewing final operational statistics while drinking lukewarm coffee from chipped porcelain cup. The Battle of the Bulge was over. American forces had recaptured lost territory, pushed Wehrmacht back across German borders, killed or captured 100,000 German soldiers. The war's outcome was no longer doubtful, only its duration. Operation Sweet Poison's final accounting: 184 couriers deployed over 38 days, 27 killed or captured, 14.7% casualty rate. Approximately 600 pounds refined sugar distributed across 89 German fuel depot locations. Confirmed engine failures: 312 Panzer tanks, 47 self-propelled guns, 89 armored vehicles. Estimated contribution to German operational collapse: 15 to 20% of total armor losses during Ardennes offensive. The numbers represented human cost that statistics couldn't capture. Marie-Claire Dubois, the widowed farm wife from Liège, captured January 3rd during final courier mission. Executed by Wehrmacht firing squad January 5th. Body left in town square as warning. Thomas Chen, Chinese-American OSS volunteer from San Francisco, killed by artillery strike while extracting from sabotage operation, body never recovered. 19 more names Eleanor had memorized. 19 crosses marked on maps. 19 families who'd received telegrams saying only that loved ones died serving their country, with no details permitted. But 312 destroyed Panzer engines meant thousands of American soldiers who didn't die in snow outside Bastogne, meant families in Ohio and Texas and California who'd receive letters instead of death notifications, meant young men who'd return home, have children, live ordinary peaceful lives because Eleanor Hartwell and 184 couriers weaponized household ingredients against history's most feared armored force. The recognition was immediate and deliberately obscured. General Bradley sent classified commendation calling Operation Sweet Poison single most effective unconventional warfare operation of European theater. Eisenhower requested Eleanor's presence at Supreme Headquarters, thanked her personally, then classified everything related to her work, top-secret special intelligence with 50-year declassification timeline. The reasoning was strategic. If sugar sabotage's effectiveness became public knowledge, future enemies would develop countermeasures, rendering technique useless in subsequent conflicts. Eleanor understood the logic, but found it bitterly ironic. Male officers received medals, promotions, public recognition for conventional military achievements. Her operation, which killed more German armor than some entire armored divisions, would remain secret for half a century. She'd returned to America as OSS analyst, her actual contributions known only to a handful of intelligence officers and president who'd never speak of it publicly. February 1945. Eleanor returned to United States aboard military transport carrying single leather briefcase containing operational documentation. She'd lost 23 pounds during 3 months coordinating sabotage operations. She'd developed chronic insomnia, hand tremors from sustained stress, and psychological burden of sending 184 people into mortal danger, 27 of whom didn't return. She'd proven that applied intelligence and unconventional thinking could achieve what orthodox military doctrine could not. Nobody except classified clearance holders would ever know. Post-war life was deliberate anonymity. Eleanor returned to MIT, resumed teaching chemistry, published academic papers on industrial applications of carbohydrate compounds, work that intelligence community recognized as thinly veiled refinement of sabotage techniques. She never married, never discussed her war service except in classified CIA briefings, lived quietly in Cambridge until death from cancer in 1989 at age 79. Her obituary in Boston Globe mentioned MIT professorship, academic publications, government service during Wetum, nothing about Operation Sweet Poison, nothing about 312 destroyed Panzers, nothing about Battle of the Bulge. The woman who'd helped save Western Front from German armor died as footnote in local newspaper. Achievements classified, identity protected even in death. The declassification occurred 1995, 50 years after war's end, when National Archives released previously restricted OSS operational files. Researcher named David Morrison, writing doctoral dissertation on unconventional warfare, discovered Operation Sweet Poison documentation buried in boxes marked Supply Operations, Miscellaneous. He found Eleanor's operational reports, courier lists, casualty statistics, Bradley's commendation, Eisenhower's classification order. Morrison's subsequent book, The Sugar Saboteur, Eleanor Hartwell, and the Secret Operation that Crippled the Wehrmacht, brought belated recognition. History Channel documentary followed. MIT established Eleanor Hartwell Fellowship for Women Studying Applied Chemistry. Small memorial plaque installed at Bastogne battlefield listed 27 couriers killed during Operation Sweet Poison. Names finally acknowledged 70 years after their deaths. Military analysts studied her operational methods, incorporating lessons into Special Forces doctrine, exploit enemy blind spots, weaponize unexpected materials, coordinate civilian resistance networks, prioritize operational security over immediate recognition. Eleanor's approach, viewing warfare as chemistry problem requiring innovative solutions rather than firepower problem requiring conventional responses, influenced generations of unconventional warfare specialists. The strategic validation came from unexpected source, declassified German military archives, Wehrmacht post-battle analysis of Ardennes failure, written by surviving officers in 1946, cited systematic fuel contamination by unknown agents as major contributing factor to Panzer operational collapse. German commanders never identified Eleanor, never understood American OSS was responsible, never imagined single-woman architect had designed their defeat. The final irony emerged from those German documents. Von Rundstedt's intelligence chief, Oberst Steiner, wrote in 1947, "We designed our security apparatus to counter military threats, commandos, explosives, saboteurs with specialized training. We failed to imagine that our most effective enemy would be civilian networks armed with household materials and coordinated by someone who understood our vulnerabilities better than we understood them ourselves. This was our fundamental mistake, assuming superiority meant invulnerability, assuming technical sophistication couldn't be defeated by elementary chemistry." Eleanor's legacy transcended battlefield impact. She proved that innovation matters more than orthodoxy, that creativity defeats doctrine when doctrine becomes rigid, that underestimated people, women, civilians, those outside traditional military hierarchy, possess capabilities establishment armies ignore at their peril. She demonstrated American pragmatism at its finest. Faced with impossible problem, she developed improbable solution, executed it successfully, then accepted anonymity because mission success mattered more than personal recognition. Today, her operational files are studied at CIA headquarters, Special Forces qualification courses, MIT engineering seminars. The sugar sabotage technique itself became obsolete. Modern fuel systems include contamination safeguards, but the principle remains vital. Understand your enemy's vulnerabilities, exploit their assumptions, weaponize the unexpected. Eleanor Hartwell received no medals during her lifetime, no parades, no public recognition, but 312 destroyed Panzer engines testified to her effectiveness. Thousands of American soldiers who survived Bastogne because German armor immobilized proved her operational genius. 27 couriers who died executing her vision demonstrated her leadership-inspired genuine sacrifice. The woman who weaponized sugar died in obscurity, was buried in quiet Cambridge cemetery, and remained classified secret for 50 years. But when history finally acknowledged her contribution, the truth was undeniable. She'd waged war more effectively than many generals, saved lives more directly than countless conventional operations, and proved that one determined individual with applied intelligence could change history's trajectory. The Battle of the Bulge is remembered for Bastogne's heroic defense, for Patton's armored relief, for American soldiers fighting through snow and casualties. Those memories are valid and true, but buried beneath them is quieter truth. A MIT chemistry professor, 184 civilian couriers, 600 pounds of household sugar, and operational audacity that turned elementary science into strategic weapon, proving again that America's greatest strength isn't firepower, but innovation born from necessity and executed through unbreakable determination. If this untold story of wartime courage and innovation moved you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another hidden chapter of history. Drop a comment below. What forgotten heroes from WP2 deserve recognition? Which secret operations should we uncover next? Share this video with anyone who believes ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. Thanks for watching, and remember, history's greatest victories often come from the most unexpected sources.